This is a paid program brought to you by STARFISH Speaks. The views and opinions expressed are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of this station or its management. Do you need auto insurance, SR22 insurance, homeowners insurance, or commercial insurance? Call 216-691-9227 for a free insurance quote. With over 22 years of experience, Washington & Company Insurance Agency will save you money on your auto, SR22, homeowners, or commercial insurance with liability starting as low as $35 a month and full coverage starting as low as $70 a month. Whatever your insurance needs are, call 216-691-9227. Washington & Company Insurance Agency for a free quote.
Good afternoon. Welcome to STARFISH Speaks. We hope we'll bring you current events about resources in our community, current events in education, hot topics, and ideas to make parenting your special needs child enriching and fun. So excited today. I've got Adrienne Calicides again. Yay!
Hello, Donna.
Parent of a child with special needs, and she is an experienced general ed teacher, so she'll be here to answer your questions about how and what to say to general education teachers. I'm Donna Gilcher, of course, host of your show, longtime educator and educational consultant. And today we're talking about strategies to make holiday stresses free and any and every question you have about education, educational advocacy consultant, being able to help with disabilities and talking with schools. So give us a call, 216-578-1490. So we're going to start off with our first caller. Today is Mary. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Donna.
Hey there.
Hi, Mary.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
So, do you have a question for us today?
Yes. I've heard from different parents, once they find out that their child has autism, they want to know to what degree. Now, I'm not sure that they can find that out right away, and it seems like kind of need to wait and have all the testing and everything done first.
Well, usually when a kid is diagnosed with autism, they've already done some of that testing. But there is a spectrum of autism. Autism goes from high functioning, where unless you're really looking for some of the traditional oddities that come with autism, you wouldn't even notice, to those children that are nonverbal and really withdrawn from the community, right, and from interaction. And I think that it really is something that you can see. It's something that early intervention, we've both seen, absolutely, that with early intervention, you're able to change the course of autism. But that was a great question, Mary. Thanks for calling and asking that. And that is a question. How do you know it? And I think it is a matter of getting the data, getting the resources, and being able to.
And I think something I can comment on as far as, how do maybe, I'm not sure exactly how you worded it, Mary, but like how severe possibly is my child affected with autism? Each child has their own special gift, even typical kids. And looking at the spectrum, there are definitely going to be things that are more challenging and they struggle with even more. So that spectrum, again, comes into play where there's just such a large spectrum. So it's hard to say. And I think that parents of children with autism, we don't like to get into that little battle about who has a higher functioning kiddo. Because there's definitely going to be, deficits in some areas, and then in other areas, they're really going to excel. So if that helps a little bit, or maybe adds to that answer.
All right, we got another caller. God, I love the phones. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Oh, we lost our other caller. So make sure you give us a call, 216-578-1490 with your questions. So we've been talking about holidays, and I got to tell you, Halloween,
Oh, boy.
Halloween started to be awful for us.
Was it a little scary?
It was scary,
Donna?
yeah. Well, early on, you know what? The biggest problem was the costume. So,
Yes.
I
Well,
had
those children with sensory issues.
yeah.
or
So
any
so
kind
my
of
son
regulation
had
of temperature
so
control.
we actually his whole Halloween there were only 3 costumes he ever did. So we early on, probably 3 or 4, he did Superman. The problem was we bought the Superman costume, so you'd have the big muscles. He wore that Superman costume under his clothes everywhere. I mean, I'd have to sneak it out of his room at night to wash it because he wanted to be Superman. Then we went into Barney.
Oh, the Barney. Oh,
And
those
then
are
we went to
fun.
Barney, and I had to be Baby Bop. So those of you that have ever met me, I'm not really a Baby Bop kind of person. But, hey, parents will do anything.
Yes, they
But I'll
will.
tell you what stopped Halloween, and he went straight to handing out candy, is our favorite neighbor across our street didn't have kids yet. He decided to do up his house. He was just really got into the Halloween. And he dressed up as a Dracula, and he came jumping out of
yikes.
a tree. Scared.
Petrifying.
It scared me. It scared unbelievably my son to the point that he went running. And the sad part about it is, I mean, he wouldn't even walk across the street.
No,
it was probably
it petrified him all
weeks
because
he thought the house was haunted now.
Sure.
But it was wild and stuff. But so you do have to be careful about the scariness. But the costumes, one of the suggestions that I was told early on, and I wish I had paid attention to it with other costumes instead of, just giving up on them, was desensitize your child to the costume like a month before.
prior to wearing
Put the
it.
costume on,
Absolutely.
wear it in the house, see how long they can tolerate it, then allow that to be, because it's awful. You go, you spend all this money for a costume, and then sensory-wise, they just can't wear it. It just doesn't feel right. And, here they are taking off their costume in the middle of the Halloween party at school.
Right.
And stuff. So it's pretty wild. So, all right, we're going to pause for a minute. We're going to take a call from Mary. She had some great ideas of holiday strategies.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Welcome, Mary.
Hi.
Hey there. So, what are some of the things, because I know I've known Mary forever.
Oh.
So, she had great strategies that I stole from her, actually,
Kind of
that
have
she
to come
used
up with them.
that she used with her son when he was little. So, Mary, give our listeners some of those great strategies.
Okay, well, I think one of the biggest ones is to maintain a normal schedule, which is hard.
God, yeah.
So,
Come
like
on,
that
Mary,
time
really?
and food and dinner time. Although we like to do things differently, but it's much easier if you keep the same schedule, I find. I used to do it even to go to Disney World, which everybody was out still going to fireworks, but we were in bed. But it works.
Yeah, you know what? That is one you
right.
think you forget
Yeah.
about because
Promise.
everybody stays up a little later during the
Yes.
holidays. So keeping that consistent schedule, that's a good one. Any other great ones you had?
I would minimize gift giving. It's very overwhelming to get a lot of gifts at once.
Right.
And I always pre-assembled and put in batteries
Oh,
and tested
God
toys
bless you.
before I wrapped them. So when they came out, they were instantly usable because it's very frustrating
Oh, that's a big one.
when it doesn't happen in an instant.
Wow.
That's a big one. We've had a
It
lot
is.
of, and you know what? There are not stores open a lot
No.
of times on the 25th to go
Not
running
easy
out for
access,
batteries.
right? We don't want to
Yeah,
melt
well,
down
by
That's
the
a
time you're
great
trying
one.
to cut those packages open that have the special plastic and all that stuff, they're done already. They're already annoyed and moved on and
Right.
freaking out. So,
Yeah.
You know, Mary, we used to do that. We would always have one special train for my son each year that we would pre-assemble, get it all ready, and that way, as he opened his gifts, in between us unwrapping the rest and, taking it out of the very dangerous packing, we would let him play with the train that we had already pre-assembled. And we ran into those issues with schedule and routine, and there's really no way around it. When the kiddos are in school, they're feeling that intense energy during the holidays. Not only is it good energy, but it, creates some anxiety. I know for a lot of kiddos, students that I've had, then you enter into the sleep issues. And you mentioned keeping a solid routine if possible. That's a big part, because then when they become too tired or out of routine with their sleep, they become irritable and things transpire into
I have a question,
ugliness.
because I have a question for you, because I know Amy has a huge family, and they love to entertain and party and all of that. So how do you make the choices to not be doing all of those things? How do you do that?
This question for me, I'm sorry I missed that.
Yeah,
Or
that's
if
for
it was
you.
me.
So
Okay.
how do you
All right,
choose?
so, well, at first I think they were hesitant to make some changes, so we would miss it. Or we would try sometimes at first and realize, boy, that wasn't worth it. I only have one child, so it's a little bit easier for me. But at first we would go to them and have expectations of just hoping it would work out, and then we realized it wasn't going to. So we would either leave early and then miss some of the stuff in the evening, and that's just the way it was. But it was better than staying and trying to get through that. And then over time, they realized that they wanted us all together. They were going to start earlier. So
that's a good
they
idea.
did.
Yeah, start earlier.
And so we just started earlier, and everybody was okay with that. And I also make it less time. So I have family that comes in with their kids, and they are from breakfast until through dinner at grandparents' house doing all this fun, crazy stuff and gifts and partying and eating. But we show up probably in the 2-3 o'clock range. So we've had a couple hours at home,
Oh, that's a good
not
idea.
involved in all that.
Chill
And
time.
then we can go and have a good time. So we just limit the length of the time. And they've become very good at it. I mean, immediate family is very conscious of what you're dealing with, so they'll make sure, like, he can go in my mother-in-law's bedroom and watch a movie and
Right.
be in a
Yeah, you
very
need a
cool
quiet
room,
place.
like temperature-wise, and just take a break.
Definitely have a
great
quiet
ideas.
place.
Well, Mary, thanks so much for calling in and
thank
sharing.
you, Mary.
We love your ideas. All right, we've got our lights are.
Our lights
up.
are
We were
lighting up.
worried about that. Remember to call 216-578-1490 if you have any questions. All right, we'll take Amy is on the next line. All right, Amy, welcome. You got some great strategies for us?
Well, actually, the problem that we ran into when it got to be middle school and high school has been that at school, things are different before the holiday.
Yep.
So that creates all this schedule
Teachers
disruption.
do that.
And then the kids, when you get to middle and high school, are expected to take final exams or semester exams right before the holiday.
You know, Amy, it's funny you bring up that point, because as a teacher, I do play a different role, and it's about the intense responsibility and focus for the exams that we're taking. And, there's already a whole lot of other stuff going on. So you're absolutely right. It's a change in routine, and it becomes a little bit more serious, even along with all that excitement of the holidays.
Yeah, and you know what? We have these end-of-course exams for the high school students, and, they've got to earn, 3 points on each of them to be able to graduate, and those happen in December. I didn't even think about that, Amy. So what are some strategies that you do to help your child be able to cope?
I don't think we're always successful.
Love you for mentioning that.
That's just one of those things, par for the course. We would do, they give you those long pages, like 3 or 4 long pages of study guide, and the kids are supposed to write all their answers in really tiny writing on each single one of them.
Oh, God.
So we would make a deal with the teacher that we could instead verbally drill those with him in the evenings and sign off that he had completed that page with us
that's a good
verbally.
idea.
Yeah.
Especially for a kid that has a writing disability or any dysgraphia. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Give me
that
one
helps.
more strategy, Amy, because we've got our lights are I love that.
Lighten up. Look at us.
Remember we were talking this morning about it's not going to happen. We're going to be talking. We're going to have dead air, and it's so great to have lots of callers. So, Amy, give me one more strategy that you found successful.
We would give him like 5 chore passes, so he could, on his daily chores, just say, "I want to use one of my chore passes today." So I'm only going to study. I'm not going to empty the dishwasher, walk the dog, whatever the chores were.
Great idea.
That's a great idea to just sort of make what their responsibilities at home are a little less stressful to allow for the studying. That's a really great idea.
And yet he got to choose when to use it rather than us telling him it's not a chore day. Yep. It gave him that power to choose.
Amy, that's great.
All right, I'm writing that one down. That's one I've got to write down and make sure I add to my list of good things. So, Amy, thanks so much for calling. Those are great.
Sure. Well, I can't wait to hear everyone else's ideas about the holidays because they're coming up.
I know. Let me tell you. So remember, you can call in with 216-578-1490. All right, welcome, Susan. You got some questions or great ideas?
Well, actually, this is a question having nothing to do with the holidays. How do you know, really it's 2 questions. So how do you know when to pressure a school for testing? And then can you also explain the differences between a 504 plan and an IEP?
Oh, really good question.
Yes,
all right.
And Donna's the queen of answers for this one.
This one, I can take this one. All right.
Can.
So if your child is struggling, if you are finding that you are spending excessive amounts of time doing homework, you find that you are forever having to, reteach something at home, your child's breaking down when they're coming home, or they're having a lot of difficulty sort of at school, and you realize that it's affecting their self-confidence and self-esteem, I would say talk with the teacher, talk with the school about starting, and just all you need to do to start testing is you just need to say to the school and put it in writing. We always have to put it in writing that you suspect your child may have some sort of learning disability. Now, if your child has a diagnosis that you're aware of, then you want to share that diagnosis with the school, and you want to say, I really think my child may have a learning disability that's affecting their learning. So your second part of your question was really good. What's the difference between a 504 and an IEP? Because they're really pretty similar. The major difference, both of them, first of all, are going to give your child fair access in school. Both of them have laws behind them.
Right,
a 504 has the Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, or ADA, the American Disability Act, Title II, behind them. And, an IEP has the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act with it. Both of them have some sort of eligibility requirement that you have with it. Both of them have some sort of learning plan. But here's the big difference. For an IEP, your child needs to need specialized instruction. And that can be in any area. It could be in language. It could be in social skills. It could be in reading, math, writing, any of those academic areas.
Speech, OT.
Yeah, but it requires specialized instruction. So that's the big key, specialized instruction.
Whereas Donna explained the 504, how that offers support and modification.
It does. 504 offers the supports. It offers, accommodations, pretty much, just accommodations. All right, great question, Susan.
Yeah,
awesome.
Nice job, Susan.
All right, we've got Jen on the line. Welcome.
Hi, how are you guys?
Hi, Jen.
Well, great. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm actually calling about a 504 plan. I have a son who has been diagnosed with PANDAS. And he, because of his illness, there are often nights where he's up late counting, or he wakes up in the middle of the night to use the restroom, and then he ends up counting for hours to get back into bed. So his sleep pattern is horrible. He's getting anywhere between 4 hours of sleep a night and 8 hours on a good night. But on those nights when he has a terrible night, I'm letting him go into school late because his doctor has it set up on his 504 that he may be tardy some days due to his illness. Well, when he's out, he has missed, for example, I'll use biology. He's missed labs. And so he's getting a 0 on those assignments because obviously you would have to be present to do a lab, and we're not being provided with data. We've had that situation happen. We've had teachers who will mark that he has a 0 out of whatever, 10, 20, on a homework assignment, and but the problem is the teachers will label it as like Chapter 15 IV, Chapter 15 AB. And when you go through the book, you have no idea what they're talking about. And so I wanted to know what I can do to ensure that my son is not, when we're looking at these grades from this last quarter, he's at a 79% in English because he missed 2 assignments. He's at a, world history is at a 77%, but he's missing 30 points worth of assignments that would have pushed him up and over. And so
hold on one minute, Jen.
How to deal with the school and what I need to get in accommodations in my 504 to make sure that this is not happening.
All right, great. Great question. I want you to stay on the line if you can. We got to go to break so we can pay the bills. And so we want to pause for a minute. Jen, we're going to come back with you.
Do you need auto insurance, SR22 insurance, homeowners insurance, or commercial insurance? Call 216-691-9227 for a free insurance quote. With over 22 years of experience, Washington and Company Insurance Agency will save you money on your auto, SR22, homeowners, or commercial insurance with liability starting as low as $35 a month and full coverage starting as low as $70 a month. Whatever your insurance needs are, call 216-691-9227. Washington and Company Insurance Agency for a free quote.
Man, it's time for basketball to get started again. This season is going to be crazy, and I'm going to as many games as I can.
You may be styling in those seats, but how you gonna get there? You better get your bus fare ready, because that ride you got ain't gonna make it. You need to check out North Coast Auto Mall at 1-800-AUTO-DEAL. They'll set you up.
Yeah, I heard they commercials. As little as 99 cents down, right? Man, come on. $1 ain't getting you nothing nowadays.
North Coast Auto Mall is legit, and we're talking about Navis, Beamers, Tahoes, Mustangs, them type of dope rides that'll have you driving like a king. All you gotta do is call North Coast Auto Mall at 1-800-AUTO-DEAL. And bruh, don't worry about that credit of yours. I know it's kind of funny. They'll work around it. You'll be riding in one of them sweet rides in no time.
Ah, give it a try. Where they at?
North Coast Auto Mall got 3 different spots. At Pearl and Brook Park in Parma, across from the Chapel Hill Mall in Akron, and on Broadway on the Bedford Auto Mile. All 3 online at 1-800-AUTODEAL.com.
You know what? When I get that car, I'm going to see if I can drive it in the championship parade.
Everything you need to know about Cleveland sports, news, weather, and more is at newstalkcleveland.com. For instant updates, follow us on Facebook at newstalk1490 and on Twitter at newstalk1490.
Welcome back to Starfish Speaks. We have Jen on the phone. Jen, I'm so glad you stayed with us through break.
Thank you.
And stuff. And you've asked multi-part questions, so I want you to stay with us as we go through this piece. And I need a little more information.
Yeah.
So,
Let me, I want to chime in here, Donna, and ask, because I'm sure some listeners are wondering as well. I don't know that I've heard of pandas. It's like panda, PANDAS, correct?
Yeah, it is.
What is
an
pandas?
acronym.
It's an acronym. So let me tell you a little bit. It's pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorder. And so, actually, it's really common in some ways. 1 in every 200 children get it. And what it is, it's caused when a child has an infection with Streptococcus A. And it actually
when they're
a
child. Okay.
Yeah, their child. It has to be a child. It's only children that can get it. And what happens is the Streptococcus A crosses the brain-blood barrier.
Ooh.
And it causes an inflammation in the brain.
Okay.
and that
so
inflammation.
what do the characteristics of this look like?
So
a little
some
like
of the,
autism?
Yeah.
Possibly?
So well, it can sometimes look like that, but a lot of times the biggest pieces are that, as she was talking about, as Jen was talking about, the counting and they end up starting to have some OCD tic kind of behaviors that are the first piece that lets us know, hey, there's something going on. And unfortunately, what happens is their body just simply can't fight. Their immune systems are so low they can't fight.
So it truly is an autoimmune
bacterial infections. And so at any given time, a child can be walking around with multiple bacterial infections, and everybody thinks, oh, we'll just give them antibiotics. Well, the antibiotics don't always work, right, Jen? I'm assuming your son's gone.
We've done, and it's with Drew. So just to back up, there is an arm of pandas called PANS, which is actually what Drew has. And it's because Drew's pandas, while he had strep in his system, walking pneumonia actually caused his pandas virus. So you can get it from walking pneumonia, mono, any bacterial type of infection, and it presents itself different in every child. So no two pandas kids are exactly the same.
So that causes one of the problems. And with it being autoimmune, it comes and goes. So there's flare-ups and what. So good question to bring us up so everyone knows what we're talking about. So Jen, you were talking about your son having a 504. So I have a couple questions. I'm assuming he has a late start or flexible attendance on his 504.
That was just added recently. So, and I don't really know how to address it because Drew was diagnosed 5 years ago. This past year, we've switched doctors and are working with a doctor out of Columbus who deals solely with pandas kids and autistic children. And so he set it up so that Drew has an accommodation, if you will, that he will be tardy, he will be late. But I don't really know, because it's so vague, what that actually entails. Is he allowed to come in, 3 days a week at 10 o'clock? There's really not a set guideline to it. So I'm always scrambling like, okay, you only got 3 hours of sleep last night, but hurry, because if you're too late, maybe they're going to get mad, or maybe, you just don't know how a school's going to react, because it's not black and white. It's very gray the way the doctor wrote it.
And so some of that is defining that. But then you mentioned a bigger piece and whatever. I'm assuming when you mentioned biology, I assume kids in high school. And so you end up having. So does your child have any kind of accommodations on his IEP for late work or missing assignments? Sometimes with pandas, you've got
but it's
disorganization
it's kind of gray. So
Okay.
what is on the 504 is that he is to be prompted to turn in work after an absence.
Okay.
So, for example, we went an entire quarter of biology, and Drew had 100%. And because this teacher doesn't list things, we have something called Power School. It's an app that shows you your child's grades and homework assignments and attendance and whatnot. So Drew had 100%. Well, the quarter ended last week, and all of a sudden he fell to a D in the class. I'm like, what is going on? Because I had no idea, because nothing had been posted. So assignments that elapsed, for example, that he was missing in September, it's now October, it's 30 days later, you're closing out the grading period, and yet I had no clue to talk to Drew about it. So even if a teacher might prompt him, I think right now, because Drew is in a bad flare, he's got Epstein-Barr, he's got walking pneumonia, and he has, I forget the third, and strep, all in his blood. So that's how they check it. So it's all those blood titers are way up. So we know he's dealing with a huge inflammation right now. And in fact, it's the worst that it's ever been. So when we're saying prompt him, they may say, hey, Drew, do you have that assignment? And Drew may say no, because he was just out yesterday for 3 days. And yet then it's never approached again. So I think I need to get the teachers, I need to make sure that they're prompting him until he turns it in. But his accommodation is for 24 hours, which with what Drew has going on right now, I just feel like 24 hours is not enough time. Because if he was out 3 days with, strep, say, or whatever, the 24 hours, that gets him one more day. Well, when he's got all the classes of high school and he
Right.
gets 24 hours, that's not enough time for a kid who's struggling.
Right. And you don't want
And feeling
unlimited
overwhelmed.
extended time. So there's a couple things. First of all, especially because grades matter and end of the quarter kind of thing. So if you have a teacher who, and you have on your 504 that a child is prompted for assignments or given extended time or those kind of things, and you know for a fact that the child wasn't talked to about what the assignment was, wasn't given that. If you're not able to understand what the assignments are in Power School, and I don't know why, this is a question for
Teachers
you.
do.
Why
I
a
know.
lot of teachers use this,
It's for their own use.
P15 or whatever, and it's like, I have no idea as a parent what it is. Power School used to cause me.
Whatever happened to Unit 2, Chapter 2, right? I'm
Power
not sure.
School in high school caused, when my son was in high school, honest to God, the Power School, I actually finally wrote into the IEP and the 504, you had a 504 first.
Put this in real.
I actually wrote into it a weekly update of missing assignments. So every
In real
Friday,
people time,
I got
because-
an email of
yeah.
what the real ones were. And even, I'm an educator, and I couldn't figure out Power School. So, Jen, don't worry that Power School frustrates you at all and stuff. If you know for a fact they didn't, this is what I always did as a parent, as I would say, especially with labs and things like that, that you can't make up.
No.
You can't.
Gotta be there.
You do it quickly. And whatever, I would say we need to have those assignments excused because he wasn't there. He wasn't able to do it. Obviously, he wasn't
and I have
given
a
the
couple
data.
suggestions on this too, not only from the teacher aspect, from the parent aspect. Go ahead, Donna. And then
Yeah,
I'll
if he
fill in what
wasn't
I
able
think.
to get the data, then I would say you need to request from the school that those are excused from his grade book so it doesn't harm him and cause a problem with it.
You
All
know,
right, what do you got?
in this day and age, and Drew is in high school, correct?
Yes, he
Okay.
is.
So there really shouldn't be any issue with the teacher or one of the students actually videotaping part of the lab. One of his assignments could be to watch the videotape and respond in two or
That's a
three
good
paragraphs.
suggestion.
Yeah, I mean,
That's a great
something to say,
suggestion.
I've witnessed this, here are my thoughts about it, here's what I learned from it. But I think what I'd like to share with you, this is Jen, right?
Yes.
What I'd like to share with you in this, I'm still progressing with this with my child as well, and I'm sort of talking more as a teacher than as a parent. Drew really could benefit from embracing this and being his own advocate, because there is nothing more powerful than him actually sitting down. And I don't know how comfortable my son is not. The communication piece is really rough for him. For him to think about sitting down with a teacher and having a conversation about his disability and what he needs from her is extremely scary.
It's hard.
But now that Drew's in high school, is he aware and is he able to say, I have a disability and I have some issues that I really need support with? Does he feel comfortable?
Yeah, so Drew we're heading into our 5th year, and like I said, he's been pretty much symptom-free or baseline OCD for the last 18 months or so. And then this summer, out of nowhere, he got a flare, and it is now October, and it's worse than it's ever been. Drew wanted to come into the high school, so he's an incoming freshman, and he wanted to come in as a normal kid and not labeled with pandas or OCD. Unfortunately, that is not what is happening. But the problem is because we've transitioned now into a new school who has new protocols with new teachers. When he was in the middle school, even if he didn't have a teacher, he was familiar with them going from 6 to 7.
Well, we know where the flare comes
We
from.
know
One
where
of
the
things
flare transition.
Yeah, just, Jen, so that you're aware, one of the things that unfortunately will flare some of these autoimmune disorders is stress.
Yep.
And so stress.
What creates the stress? Transition.
Any kind of transition, going to a new school, even if you're in a small district where, it's the same kids and whatever, it's a different building, it's a different smell, it's a different layout. All of these combinations makes it really difficult. So, our biggest suggestion, Jen, is you got to go back to the school team. And it may be, because it sounds like he's got so many issues that are going on, it may be at this point that you may need to transition and talk to the school about transitioning to possibly an IEP, because he may need from a 504, because it sounds like the accommodations aren't working as well as they could, and he may need to have specialized instruction.
when they get to the high school. Drew, he just turned 15. He's still a kid.
He's still a kid.
And so when you get, and some of his teachers are teaching freshmen, but also teach the 18-year-old seniors.
Yeah, sure.
And so their expectations of these kids is be responsible. If you have a problem, come and tell me.
Yeah.
Well,
But
it's
that's
not
not
exactly
always easy.
to
Right.
come and tell somebody about an illness that nobody understands.
Right. Well,
Well,
and I think
and-
it's important
and maybe,
to recognize the teachers may not, I mean, you may say, my child has PANDAS, my child has pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorder, and the teachers may have no idea what that means. And so sometimes as a parent, when you're advocating for your child, a part of that is educating the teachers, and some teachers are open to it, and I think some teachers aren't. But
and they a lot of times it's a communication piece, Jen. And I think for Drew, just as he grows, and I'm speaking like I'm doing this as well at my house. Only my kiddo's only 14. So, but part of him advocating for himself, coming from the teacher standpoint, I've spent years not necessarily worrying about what someone's diagnosis is, but what does this kid need? How can I support them to be successful? So if Drew goes to his teachers with maybe not all the deep details, just simply that I really want to be successful and I know you're here to help me and that you want the same for me. Here are the things I need from you. Right. And even a short list, maybe on index cards, maybe you role play this with him a little bit to play you're going to sit down, you're going to ask your teacher for a little time, schedule a time to see him or her, sit down, explain yourself, why you're there. That communication piece, building that relationship and opening those up, he may find that he gets a lot more from them because he's taken that time and he's, speaking up for himself.
Well,
and I think that's huge. But I think that right now where Drew is in his flare, that would cause
that wouldn't work for him.
Right.
Especially because you said he was, you mentioned something about him counting and the OCD. I suspect that he may be spending so much time in the OCD episode that he's not able to do that. Jen, thanks so much for calling. Yeah, that was a great question.
Thanks for taking time to talk to me, ladies.
No problem. Thanks so much.
Have a great day.
You too.
All right, we have another caller. I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. Who's our caller?
Who's on the line?
Hi, this is Amy again.
Hi, Amy.
Hey,
What's up?
I was listening to Jen on the line a second ago.
Yep.
And I had another idea for her about extended time on assignments.
Oh, we love it. See, this is what starfishing is.
My number one idea that worked beautifully for our son has been whenever he misses school for whatever reason, or he is allowed, and the time he's allowed to turn in that assignment is he's allowed to turn it on any time up until the following Monday.
Oh.
So what that did for us was that said, when you go back to school, you're sick on Tuesday, you go back to school on Wednesday, and now suddenly you're expected to do Tuesday and Wednesday homework in one night.
Right.
That doesn't work. So what we would do is we would put off that Tuesday work that he missed until Saturday and Sunday when he was more relaxed, had more time, was able to complete it.
I love that idea. Amy, thank you for calling back with that. That's what we love.
Yes, thank you, Amy.
Please remember, anytime you have an idea for someone, a caller and whatever, please call in with it, because that's what we call starfishing at Starfish.
Yep. And also, though, ask the school if they have a support class for kids who have accommodations.
Right.
And in the support class, they can help him remember to turn in assignments. They can provide him with some basically study hall with a lot of aid and teacher support to help him work on those strategies at school.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that
Good
you can.
suggestion,
That's
Amy.
one of those activities and those services you get through an IEP. Thanks so much, Amy, for calling back. Let's take a break, and we'll be back. Remember to give us a call, 216-283.
You got cut off.
Oh,
216-578-1490.
Thanks so much.
Do you need auto insurance, SR22 insurance, homeowners insurance, or commercial insurance? Call 216-691-9227 for a free insurance quote. With over 22 years of experience, Washington and Company Insurance Agency will save you money on your auto, SR22, homeowners, or commercial insurance with liability starting as low as $35 a month and full coverage starting as low as $70 a month. Whatever your insurance needs are, call 216-691-9227. Washington and Company Insurance Agency for a free quote.
Are you addicted to drugs or alcohol? Even if you think you might have a problem, call this number right now for free information. 800-610-4417. That's 800-610-4417. By calling the Addiction Rehab Specialist, you're taking the first steps to recovery. Their advisors are ready to match you with a proven 5-star facility right now. The call is free and the information is free. 800-610-4417. The federal government says you can have up to 90 days off work for treatment. And if you have insurance through your employer, it could mean little to no cost to you. This free call is completely confidential. Seriously, pick up the phone and call us now. Our advisors are standing by. 800-610-4417. 800-610-4417. That's 800-610-4417. 800-610-4417. Addiction Rehab Specialist is a network of independent treatment centers and placement services nationwide.
Welcome back.
Welcome.
Welcome back. We've had some great suggestions, great questions. Remember to give us a call. This whole show is about you and whatever your ideas and questions are. So give us a call, 216-578. Go for it. So I wanted to go back to the holiday pieces for a bit and whatever, because December is great. We've had so many great suggestions. But one of the things that oftentimes happens is you have going out to meals and different things like that. If you have a kid that has allergies, I know you do as well.
Well, let's even back up, Donna, to Halloween. I mean, that can be everything from school to the neighborhood to trick or treat. Food allergies can be a huge issue.
It is a huge issue.
And, kids especially, there are different times in their lives, but they can be kind of sneaky. Even knowing they have an allergy, they kind of think that they're going to beat it. It's like your son wearing his Superman outfit. If I've got this on, those peanuts can't harm me.
Right.
So there's something really cool called teal pumpkins. Do you know about this?
No. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So teal pumpkins, apparently, I don't know a whole lot about it because, like your son, my son, kind of gave up trick-or-treating at a younger age. It was scary for him. There were a whole lot of sensory issues going on. The last and final was kind of at a haunted house that was so awesome at his school, but it was scary for him.
Yeah.
And even though the other kids were okay with it and he made it through, it just sort of kind of finished that off for him. So he'd rather pass out the candy than be the scary. But they have something, it's called the Teal Pumpkin Project. You can find it on foodallergy.org.
Oh, cool.
You can also, there's a map. They give you Teal Pumpkin Project, people that are participating. And what the Teal Pumpkin means is that what they're doing is they're raising awareness for food allergies, prompting inclusion for trick-or-treat treats and trick-or-treaters, and making sure that if you see a teal pumpkin, you know that those treats will be safe.
Oh, wow.
Now, of course, there's the top 8 allergens. There's also, kids who happen to be intolerant to specific things. So, of course, especially the younger your kid is, helping them to manage it. But I know as my kid gets older, he keeps thinking that he's going to be able to try something because his buddy's eating it. So, of course, there's still that piece of, communicating with your kiddos about what they do eat. But even teachers are, giving out candy at school or, it can be a little scary. So this was something that I found out about. I thought, wow, this is pretty proactive. And I think that's kind of what we're getting into with the holiday piece here, is just the front-loading piece.
Front-loading, being absolutely being proactive. I love that teal pumpkin thing.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
And whatever. I got to tell you, I stopped giving out candy and started giving out like those. Well, like Wendy's gift certificates for those,
Frosty,
the little Frosties, or I went to Pencils and whatever. Oriental Trader has so many.
Oh, you can buy bags of
cheap things.
I had a teacher friend; she lived by Oriental. Yes,
it was cheaper than the candy and whatever, and kids seem to like it. So, that was something that we would do.
Yeah, something
instead.
to think about, because not only, is that an issue, but it, of course, can be stressful, but it can also greatly affect the moods of kids.
It does.
We know the kiddos that get a pillowcase full of chocolate, it affects their mood, no doubt about it.
So talking about being proactive.
And front-loading.
Front-loading things. You know what? We had a bag that we had like puzzles, things that you could do at a table that wouldn't cause problems and weren't messy activities that they could do. But also, anytime we went to friends' houses or even when we went to like church, Christmas church activities and stuff, I would find a little corner that
Quiet place.
Yeah, that if it was getting to be too much or it was too, that my son knew he could tiptoe to, and it was his little, safe space.
Yep.
And I think it's always good. Find safe spaces for your kids to make that. But also, you know what? We started limiting those events.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew
like,
up.
I think it was Mary that said just kind of coming a little bit later.
Come later
and
and stuff.
families, families, I think,
but
it's part of educating the world on people with disabilities. Right. Families need to understand, that there are special requirements.
I think it's also important that we in Cleveland, I think in Cleveland, the fact that Autism Speaks and some of our Autism Society and some of those organizations have paired up with some of our theaters. And so we have, you can go and see the Christmas Carol during it's a sensory friendly event. And some of the movie theaters that are having Christmas things sensory friendly. It is so important, those sensory friendly kind of activities. And so look for those. Even if your kid doesn't have sensory issues, you know that if you go to one of those events, the families, the parents are going to be. So give us a call, 216-578 1490. That's a better way to say it.
Right.
1490 and whatever.
1490.
Do you have one more thing that you guys do for the holidays?
I do. This is just because, this is maybe more of an only child piece or a little bit of an OCD piece. But if family is coming to our house, we always let our kiddo know, hey, they're going to want to play with your toys.
God, yeah.
You know this. And most of his cousins are younger. So to give him choice and make him feel like he's got some control over the situation, we say, if you've got, a toy or two that's super special or you're really into right now, put it away.
Oh, God, yeah.
So there won't be any issues or arguments over it. We definitely always have, he's an iPad kid with headphones, so he can go to his little space and just get some chill time if needed. But, we don't make an issue, and our family doesn't make an issue if he decides he's going to head off and play, either with some of his cousins or not. We let him have that time and space. And that was one other thing that I wanted to add was my family's really good about this. Just making those positive comments to the kiddos, noticing not what they did that wasn't so good, but noticing what they did that was good and reassuring them. And of course, we always front load. What's going to happen today? Who do we expect to see today? And if we don't do it, he does it for us. He'll start asking, well, who's going to come today? And how long is it going to be? So those front loading pieces, I think, are really important.
You know what? But, unfortunately, I know that, we've had people that haven't always been accepting and don't always understand the situation and stuff like that. Finding out easy ways to educate about your child's disability.
Yeah, real clear and
share,
simple.
Yes, simple, clear, share it and whatever. There's going to be people that can't. We've had great-grandparents and whatever that just didn't get it and stuff. And sometimes you create limited opportunities, do the things that work and don't do the other things. But here's the biggest thing that I finally, and I think my son was probably 5 or 6 years old, is somebody said to me, you don't have to have a perfect holiday.
No, you really don't. I think we have to, sometimes eventually you kind of lose that.
Right.
You do, because there's only so much you can hold.
Don't expect perfection. If you don't expect perfection, you're going to have a good time.
Yeah.
And that was one of the most freeing things. And so if anybody ever thinks they have to have a perfect holiday, here's my thing. Don't worry about it. Just go do some activities. We have so many fun activities here in Cleveland that you can come into and come out of, and some of them are free and different things like that. But, you know, you can watch the lighting of the Christmas tree on the television.
Sure.
And you don't
comforts
have
and quiets of your own
and you
home.
don't have the overwhelming people and crowds and things like that,
Right.
and still
Weather.
enjoy that. Yeah, and still enjoy that fun kind of thing. All right, so I have some questions for you, because you know
Let's
what?
hear it.
We're coming up on parent-teacher
Yes,
conferences.
we are. My husband's got them next week.
And so for those parents that are going out to parent-teacher conferences and whatever, and their kids are struggling, what are some things that they should ask for? What are some? How do you find out what the parent is, or, you know, what do you do?
A lot of times, and it depends what your child's school holds. Do they hold interim report pickup, which tends to be, to my way of viewing it, that's pros and cons. But the interim report piece helps parents to see what's happening halfway through a grading period and to make a difference by the end of the grading period. Some schools operate differently. You don't get to talk to the teachers until the grade comes out. So that sort of throws proactive to the wind, in my opinion. However, I think one thing that teachers, and this is speaking from the teacher standpoint, really like to hear is that a parent says to them, I want my child to be successful. What can I do at home to support my child? And a teacher absolutely knows that hours of homework a night is just not feasible. It really isn't.
So if my child's having hours of homework, I should tell the parent, tell the teacher,
because
let them know the struggle.
Generally, teachers, be it for practice, a lot of times teachers do assign reading because they want it to be read so that they can work with that the next day in class. But quite honestly, hours of homework, up until high school, where they do have some pretty serious assignments that they're working on, projects of those sorts. But hours of homework is just, it's not conducive for anyone. And a lot of kids are involved in other stuff outside of school, which makes them much more of a special person. So I think asking the teacher, in a manageable way, what can I do at home to support you? A lot of times teachers may say, I need more communication with you. We need to email back and forth right away so you know when there's an issue. Or, parents may say, I don't see a planner coming home or an agenda book. I need to see things like you mentioned. I need to see things written down in a language I can understand so I know what to support my kid with. Another issue, I think, especially with kids with disabilities, is their IEP? Are those goals being met? Are those accommodations in place? And, maybe you need to have the teacher verbalize to you what they're doing to support your child.
That's a good idea.
If success isn't,
So the biggest thing is showing up. I mean, so often.
Showing up.
When I was a teacher, one of the things that just bothered me is that sometimes parents didn't show up.
And what I always like to hear is, that night is not convenient for me, but I would love to talk to you. How can we, whether it's a phone, can we find another time, whether it's a phone conversation or a quick meeting after school or before school, during a teacher's planning period, maybe even. Those kinds of things, that communication is huge.
Right. So half the battle of your child being successful in school
is just the
communication. As a parent, just showing up and communicating and doing that. And I think that's really important and whatever. And I think it is. That's a great question. How are you supporting my child?
As, during conferences, and I teach middle school, it is really, I think, vital to have the student there.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Absolutely, because they see that the parent and the teacher are working as a team. They understand that they're working towards success for that child. And there's no hidden agenda. The kid comes home and I'm going to be in trouble, and my mom's going to conferences, and the teacher's going to say, they don't know what the teacher's going to say.
I was petrified during parent-teacher conferences because, I was not, unfortunately, the perfect child. I was a child with dyslexia, and, during the time that they didn't really do IEPs for kids that were in general education. And I got to tell you, I was squirrely and, was always that ADHD kid too.
And wouldn't it have been beneficial for you to hear both
if I
your
could have been,
parents and teacher?
Yes, but I'll tell you, I was petrified, absolutely petrified. So it would have been, because I did, and I waited, I would pray, please let the teacher say one thing nice so that I don't get in trouble. and whatever.
And as a teacher, teachers we need to remind ourselves. I always try to start a conference with something very positive and uniquely positive about that kid. Not just, oh, you got a great kid, but something a little bit more special. And I always, as the teacher, like to, if there are specific things that I want that kid to know that they can do to be more successful, and you say it in front of their parent, they're held accountable. There's some pretty positive things going on there because they know, and then when they agree that they will do those things, it's kind of like a pact amongst that little team.
Those are some great strategies. So, if you have a question, you got about a minute or two to give us a call in.
216-578-1490.
So that you can ask your question. But I also want to take an opportunity, because over the course of our show, it's been great because we've been having this song that we play all the time. And we play a snippet of it.
Mm-hmm. What's the name of the song, Donna?
The name of the song is called, I think it's called Dreams. Hold on.
I think you're right.
Diverse
Dream. That's
Diverse Dreams, and it's actually by a young performer. His name is Logan. He lives in Hawaii, and he is a young man with multiple disabilities, and he went to college, tried to get into the music, has struggled because of his disabilities to get into the music. I just happen to have been turned on to his CDs. You can get them on Amazon and whatever. His music is fabulous. But I wanted to take some time in our show today to be able to let our listeners hear the whole song.
Yeah, because it always gets cut off.
It always gets cut off. So we're going to put that on right now so that you can listen to that quickly before we leave. Mm-hmm. And it is Diverse Dreams by Logan.
That's great.
All right, that was Logan's Diverse Dreams. That's such a great thing. So if you didn't get your question in, please feel free to go to starfishadvocacy.org and you can post a question there. And it has been so much fun to have you with me again, Adrian.
Thank you.
Remember, Starfish Speaks every Sunday at 1 p.m. on WERE 1490. We'll see you next week.
The proceeding was a paid program brought to you by Starfish Speaks. The views and opinions expressed are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of this station or its management.